Hello everyone. I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of a construction materials testing job. A lot of us are called engineering technicians, inspectors. Mostly what I do is concrete testing, soils testing, foundations subgrade testing, rebar inspection, and just lots of other little things. But those are most of the things I do, as well as asphalt testing too. I don't know if this will not be a comprehensive video. I'm just kind of making it off the cuff out of boredom. So that's one of the pros about this job, is there is downtime sometimes. There is some boredom. The first job I had today was very stressful because I worked this weekend and a bunch of stuff went wrong. It's a very important and expensive project, so now there's all these parties that are trying to figure out who's to blame, and they're trying to figure out what the narrative is. And so my report was central to that, and so they were rushing me to get that in, and I had to cross-reference and figure out how to write this down because I didn't have the report done. So that was stressful. And it was stressful over the weekend when everything was going wrong. When things go wrong, which they do, that's why we have the job, it's not fun. Some lawyers are probably going to get involved. But you know, I've been doing this for about 7.5 years. 9 overall, but I had a 1.5 year gap in there. And so I'm pretty well versed on what I need to do when there's problems. Not that I know what to do to solve the problems, but I know how to put that on somebody else that is responsible with solving the problems. So that was stressful. And then the second half of the day, I was sent out to this project in the city that they're building a museum. And so all of their excavations, they backfilled it with 1-inch clean stone. And then months later, an architect looked at the reports and said, I don't like 1-inch clean stone. He wrote all these reports and he wants them to take it all out and replace it while being observed to be compacted thoroughly. So all I'm doing is watching them take stuff out, put it back in 1-foot lifts, and then watching a guy go over it with a compactor. It's like 2 pages of really easy reports, and you know, so it's kind of like both sides of the job in one day. Really stressful, and people are like, the office is calling me to get my report in. My boss is hitting me with all these questions. But then the second half it's almost nothing. I almost feel bad because I'm on this job site. There's all these people working, and I'm just kind of chilling. I got a book to read. I got my phone to look at. A lot of people want to always have something to do. I'm not that way. I have a lot of interests. I have a lot of things I like to learn about. And so that's a plus with this job. There is some downtime. Another plus about it, and of course you can use that downtime, and I have to do further training to further your career, to get a better job, make more money, and learn new skills. One of the big things I like about this job is that most of the time I'm alone. Of course I have to deal with these workers, I have to deal with my boss sometimes, and I need to have decent social skills to communicate with people. But most of the time I'm alone. There's small amounts of time when I'm being watched. So I'll have to go and do a couple tests, and then people might come talk to me to find out the results. But other than that, nobody cares what I'm doing, including my boss. As long as she doesn't get complaints from the client, and as long as I turn in my reports, then I get very little trouble. I don't have, once a job is going, I might not have a lot of communication with the office. And I really like that, because when I did have a year and a half off from this job, I went to work in a factory for a while. And in that factory, it was a metal fabrication shop where I was just around people constantly. And the boss was there constantly. And there was like people from the office, the owners, and you got to like impress them. And I don't know, I got really tired of that. I got really sick of it. And then they ended up laying a bunch of people off, including me. And I was only so glad to come back to this. The reason that I left this to go there was because I was on a job that was so slow for about a year. It was so slow and almost pointless. It was just us checking off boxes, and I like times of downtime, but that was beyond. And it drove me a little crazy, so I wanted to actually do something. So I worked in this metal shop where I was working with my hands 10 hours a day, and I really enjoyed it for a while, but I got tired of that too, because I'm just a kind of a inquisitive person. I want to learn other things besides like how metal is welded together. I get bored with things. I'm into tons of stuff, just nerdy stuff. I'm into like theology, and I'm into the outdoors, and I'm into Bible, and I'm into health and fitness, and just online stuff. And in politics, and I don't want to be thinking about metal all day, But then again, it's good to have something really simple to think about sometimes. Just real, how is this going to work? How is this going to be put together and fit together? And that's what this job is. So there is a nice balance overall between being pretty busy and having downtime and being left alone. I have my work truck. It's basically my personal office. I can come in here, I can eat my lunch, I can talk on the phone. The thing about this job, many days there's enough time that I can, if I have to call my health insurance, or like I stopped at the store and got my nephew a birthday card today. The last job I had, I couldn't ever do that. So that's another pro. I'd say one of the cons is that when things go wrong, most of the time the job is pretty easy. There is definitely a learning curve. They say really it takes 3 years, but they don't just teach you everything at once. They start you out testing concrete, which you can watch videos on that. It does take some practice and experience. Even now there's little things that I need help to learn, but it's a pretty basic process, and they don't teach you everything at once. But things go wrong, and when things go wrong, then that's when they notice us. A lot of the time they don't even care what we're doing. But when things go wrong and we have to tell them, we have to say, this is not meeting specification. And they say, why not? We say, because it's too wet, or it's too long, or whatever. It's too heavy, or whatever the test might be that failed. And then we have to work with them to try to figure it out, how to make it right. And that can sometimes be pretty stressful. Of course, nobody really likes an inspector when things are going wrong, especially if the inspector is inexperienced. So most of the time the job is pretty easy, but every now and then it's really hard. For me at least, I'm kind of I guess I'm kind of sensitive in that way, to where I don't like those type of conflicts where I don't know what to do. However, when I started this job, I was about, I think I was 32 or 33. And I always felt like I was the young guy on the construction site. And I've definitely had done small construction before, but I had never been on a major construction site before, on a commercial, you know. And so when I first got out there, I was intimidated. There are just these rough construction workers, and this is not Starbucks where you have to say thank you, come again. They can say whatever they want to you, and not all of them are you know, the most courteous people you'll ever meet. Some are quite rough. So I was very nervous many times, and I felt like the young guy. And I would, when things would go wrong, sometimes, you know, me being in my early 30s would have to go up to this guy in his mid 50s who has been doing this for like a long time and tell him he's doing it wrong. And man, I hate that. I hated that. However, now I'm 41. And so it seems like after the pandemic, a lot of the older guys retired. And then I took a year and a half off. A few months ago, I just came back to this. And it just feels like since I've gotten back, now I'm one of the old guys. In the way that most of the basic workers are probably in their 20s and 30s. You know, most of the guys who are in their 40s or 50s are like more high up, and or they've gotten themselves into a job where they don't have to deal with me. And so that age and experience has made a huge difference in my attitude towards this job. I'm not as nervous anymore. I know what to say. I have confidence. I'm not afraid of any of the workers. There's only been a couple times where I almost felt like it was going to get physical, but it never has. But I still don't like it when things go bad, of course, and sometimes it really bothers me, especially when I don't know what to do and everybody's looking at me. Hate it. That being said, another pro is that we spend a lot of time outside. It's good to have fresh air. It's good to get sunshine. Sometimes we have to wake up pretty early, but most of the days, if I wake up at 6 a.m., be at work by 7, that's how most of the days are. You know, so it's a regular first shift job, which is nice. Nobody wants to work nights. Well, some people do. I don't get it. I want to be awake with the sun. So it's good. And yes, a lot of the projects are very interesting. You know, like this one, it's going to be a museum. And in this job, we start from the very beginning of the job when they're just stripping soil to reveal the foundation subgrades. And then we're there when they're pouring the concrete foundations. We're there when they are, you know, pouring the concrete slabs. And so we're able to just observe all sorts of things and into the building of a structure that is interesting. And then you go by it a couple years later and you know that you're a part of it, and you remember all the different stages of its, you know, of its building. It is a dirty job a lot of the time. You get dirty, you get muddy, you get dusty, you get concrete on you. And I do not mind that myself. I don't mind getting dirty at all. I like dirt. I think it's actually good for you. I think dirt is one of the least dirty things there is in this world. And so, but some people might not like that, and that's fine. Of course, it can be dangerous, but there are so many laws put into place and so many individual policies by different job sites and different contractors that are put into place to make sure people follow safety guidelines, that most of the time nothing happens. Most people never really have any type of incident. You just kind of got to be aware. You just got to be careful. There's a lot of heavy equipment and heavy things moving around, and metal sticking out of the ground, and uneven surfaces, whatever. So that might be a downside. An upside is it's kind of a stepping stone into other things. There's many directions you can go with it. Many people have become construction workers. We work with concrete contractors and heavy equipment operators all the time. There was I was talking to a concrete contractor, and I asked him, how much would you pay someone with no experience? And he said, if I trusted him, I'd pay him $25 an hour. That's starting with no experience. So you can learn these things, make these connections. I've known people who have gone from my position to being site managers, on superintendent, they call it, on a job site. And I personally don't have much desire to do that. A little too much responsibility, too many hours. I don't have kids. I don't want to work a ton of hours. I like this week to have overtime, that week to not have overtime. I want to spend my life doing what I want to do. That's not working most of the time. But so that's I'm talking more about the things around the job than the actual job. And but that's one of the biggest things I like about this job is a lot of people don't want to do it because it's kind of drudgery work sometimes, and you have to deal with contractors, and of course contractors are sometimes jerks. They try to play games with you, they try to intimidate you every now and then. Nobody wants to deal with that. And so this job is one of those dirty jobs that nobody wants to do, and the job itself is annoying, but it's the things around the job. The company I work for understands how difficult it is to get good workers, so as long as you do your work, they kind of let you do what you want. And I love that. I don't like having people watching me, all the time. I personally, I don't like being around people all the time. A lot of these guys, they're in a trench building a concrete form with the same crew 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I just couldn't do that myself just because I don't like being around people that much. I love people, and I like socializing, but I like being alone more. So that's another perk to the job. But that being said, there are a lot of people that I get to know, and there's a lot of people to talk to. And I know I talked about construction workers being gruff and maybe rough around the edges, but I'd say 95% of them are just totally decent folks. Easy to get along with if you're respectful, And I've met many good people doing this job. I know I'm missing some big things. I just kind of off the cuff decided to do this, and so I might make another video of things that I forgot to say in this one. And if you're thinking of doing this job, I totally would recommend it. It's, we need a really, really big downturn in the economy for building to stop. I think that even if we were in a recession or a depression, real estate people are still going to find out how to build stuff, and they're still going to need us because we are built into the contracts. They're going to build something big, they got to hire us. So as long as things are getting built, we're going to have jobs. And if you find these things interesting, and I'm an engineering technician, so I work for engineers, What that means is I do a little bit of engineering, but I'm not an engineer. And I enjoy that. I like the figuring out how to make things work sometimes. And, you know, seeing things be done. I like seeing dirt moved around. I like being outside, and I like reading my phone. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, you know, if you're thinking about it, do it for a summer. Any place will hire you. And it's not even that big of a deal. And have fun. Like and subscribe and share, and support my Patreon. I don't have a Patreon, but if you, any comment is welcome in the comments. Is there anything you disagree, anything you think I should add, or questions you have, or experiences you have especially, please share. Thanks.